Reinforcing sounds by Kordsa.
Hello everyone, you are listening to Reinforcing Sounds podcast by Kordsa, featuring wide-ranging conversation on future of everything, ranging from tire and construction reinforcement to composite technologies. It's Aisha from Corporate Communication Department to moderate this episode today. In this first episode of Reinforcing Sounds, we're going to be talking about future of mobility. When we say future of mobility, we may talk about case mobility, smart mobility, micro mobility, but today, in terms of tire industry, we will talk about case mobility. I mean connected, autonomous, shared and electricity cars. But because of the COVID-19, maybe we should find a new definition for case mobility or completely change our minds. To discuss all these, we are together with Burak İlgün and Dr. Yasin Shen. They both are from Kordsa in different roles. Hello, Burak and Yasin. Welcome our first episodes of Reinforcing Sounds. I ask you to, first of all, introduce yourselves for this first episode. So let's start with Burak, if you like.
Hi, Ayşe. This is Burak. Burak İlgün. I'm working for Market Development Department in Kordsa. I'm mainly responsible for the commercialization of new products.
Okay, and Yasin?
My name is Yasin. I've been working in Kordsa R&D Center for 10 years, and I'm an expert researcher in polymer chemistry.
So we have a scientist and a marketing manager here today. Burak, if you like, we're starting with case mobility. I mean, connected, autonomous, shared and electricity cars, and the current effect of COVID-19 on case mobility. What will you say?
Yeah, Ayşe, during the 2019, actually, we were focused for especially the connectivity and digitalization of the automotive industry. As you mentioned, the case, the connected, autonomous, and shared mobility with electric cars were at the hype level of the previous year. And what happened is actually when we totally focus for this new era. Suddenly we phase up with the pandemic. Actually, I would like to just come to one step back and inform a little bit about the electric cars. As we know that the carbon dioxide emissions were the main reason of the electric cars. So therefore, the industry has an ultimate solution for the electric car for this emission issue, and they came with the electric car solution. And but what happened is after this pandemic, we are facing a kind of new era, and the case will be has a highly impact from this problematic situation. And when we are trying to define this new normal, we can go one by one for each item here. And let's start with especially for the electric cars, because as I mentioned, the reason was the carbon dioxide emissions of this industry, and therefore we were focused to solve it by the electric cars. And we believe that electric cars were the ultimate solution for the problem. But during the pandemic, especially, I remember that it was in April, it was the lowest level of the carbon dioxide emissions because of these lockdown situation. So
because we didn't use anything in this situation.
Exactly, and this is kind of for people who, especially living in the eurozone, they believe for these emission limits, because at the very beginning, people were really challenged with the new regulations on these CO2 emissions. But afterwards, since the total reduction was almost 17%, and it was the rock bottom levels of the 2006. So people are real energized with this situation. So therefore, especially we can say that the electric vehicle and the sustainability impact of electrical vehicles will be still in the picture.
So you say that we understand the carbon emissions level is about using or not using the cars or other vehicles that we use for transportation.
Right, it is actually. And when we look for this when we look for the previous as mentioned previous trends, the in 2019 the digitalization and the connectivity was at the first line. So in this case, when we link it to the autonomous cars, especially, we do see an impact of this pandemic to the autonomous vehicle development either. And especially at the very beginning of this pandemic, we realized that there are many projects has been postponed or delayed or cancelled. Especially when we read the news from the BMW and Mercedes-Benz, they have postponed their or they cancelled their project about
Why they
autonomous cars.
cancel those projects?
Well, initial assumption is actually because of the kind of really remedy for the fast solution for the financial crisis of the pandemic impact, and afterwards we believe that definitely the autonomous cars will be still in the picture, because in the other part of the world, in especially Asia and China, we do not see we see the opposite trend. During the pandemic, the investment of China for the autonomous cars are actually increasing, and China was the country who actually used the autonomous cars or vehicles or sort of equipments to protect the people or to increase awareness on COVID-19. So this is a quite different situation in the rest part of the world.
Yes, autonomous car is a big topic for the case mobility, and autonomous cars has its own needs, kind of technological and cost or policy or public acceptance issues in autonomous cars. But let's look at the autonomous cars in the tire reinforcement or tire industry needs, and maybe we may turn to Yasin and ask what is the autonomous cars need in terms of tire technology.
I mean, in general, not specifically for autonomous cars, but we when we talk about the shared mobility, it means that longer mileage for the cars is needed. So it means that you need to have reinforcing materials from our point of view as Kordsa. We need to have reinforcing materials with improved physical properties, for example. So we have projects on those kind of reinforcing materials with better physical properties so that it can last longer. And actually, we also focus on not only improving the individual reinforcing materials, but also we want to reduce the amount of reinforcing elements in the tire so that the consumption of fuel would be reduced.
And rolling resistance, I think the other issue.
Yes, that's what we call rolling resistance. Rolling resistance is reduced, and by this we reduce the fuel consumption. We have projects like that.
Could you please tell us the story of this tire on the road? Could you please tell us more the story?
Yeah, basically, I think Burak can describe it better, but basically, I would say that when the tire runs on the road, there is a resistance, there is a friction on the road, and there is a contact surface between the tire and the road, and there is a friction, and you lose your energy by fuel consumption, and I would say the harder the surface of the tire, you reduce the friction. But not only tire surface is playing a role in this, but also the weight of the tire is also contributing to this friction. So what we want to do is to reduce the weight of the tire. From our point of view, we can do this only by improving the physical properties of the fiber. Other than that, we cannot we cannot play with the tire itself. The only thing which we can play with is the amount of fiber that we use as a reinforcer. And by reducing this, we reduce the weight, and in turn, we reduce the fuel consumption. That's how it works. Burak may add some more comments on this.
Right, Yasin. As it's the definition already itself, because it's a kind of resistance to rolling of the tire. Therefore, we can manage it with certain parameters. Basically it's coming out of the high hysteresis of the rubber itself, and you can imagine that when you are running on a kind of a road, or when you are running on a kind of beach. So when you're running on a beach on the sands, it's really it's hard for you to run. But if you run on a clean road, it's really easier for you, and you will not lose too much energy. So it is the same case, and therefore it's a kind of the tire is a composite material. So therefore we need to
Yes,
consider.
I just asked this question: what kind of a composite a tire is?
Maybe I can take over. Tire is like it contains so many chemicals in it. It contains so many different materials, and it needs a reinforcing elements, and that's what we come into the picture. We have different types of fibers. These fibers are reinforcing the tire, but their not only physical property is different, but also chemical property is different than the tire. So
also we have projects, I think, about the chemicals, right?
yeah, and how can we reinforce a tire with our material which is not compatible with the tire itself? For this, we need an interface. We need an adhesive solution to coat our reinforcing elements. And actually, that's my area of expertise. We are working on developing different adhesive formulations so that our fibers can stick to tire very well, and it becomes incorporated into the tire matrix so that it can run a long time without having any problems. And we have several projects to improve this kind of adhesion. And actually, maybe in the later, we will talk about our Cocoon project. Should I?
Yes, I will ask about it. But first of all, I would like to clarify something on this tire technology and our development and our reinforcement material in these tires. So we develop chemicals, actually an adhesive formula, right? And with this adhesive formula, we provide a tire to last longer and decrease its rolling resistance on the road. So it's directly connected with this case mobility situation, right?
Exactly. Yes.
This is the technology of tire, and the other part is the environment in the production process. So we have projects on this environment situation that affects the human health and the environment health, let's say. So could you please tell us about this Cocoon project? I think our audience is really curious about this.
Yeah. Before talking about the Cocoon project, let me tell you this current situation of adhesive formulations in tire cord production.
Okay.
Resorcinol, formaldehyde, and latex-based, these are the chemicals, latex-based solutions are being used for almost like a century. It's an industry-wide standard. But during the production of tire cord, these chemicals actually are not very innocent. They are kind of toxic, and actually they are under close watch, but by European and United States authorities. So their usage is limited. So we have to be ready for the future. We had to be ready for the future, and we started a project, resorcinol and formaldehyde-free adhesive dip development projects so many years ago. And but the idea is there is only one standard RFL, industry-wide standard RFL. So our idea was, how can we make our new solution as a new industry-wide standard? Because we know that our competitors are also working on resorcinol formaldehyde-free dipping solutions. And it's from a tire manufacturer's point of view, it's not really attractive because they don't want to approach so many different technologies. It's not only time consuming, but also it requires a lot of budget to approve these things. So
Do you mean with this cocoon dipping solution, the production sites don't need any other investments about machineries or other things, right?
yes, yes. Yeah, when we started the project, that was the boundary conditions for us. Whatever chemical you use should be free of resorcinol formaldehyde, obviously, but it should be readily available chemicals. It should have almost, it should have at least the same cost as current industry standard. And it shouldn't require any extra equipment, any extra investment. It should work the same way as the current industry-wide standard. And with that in mind, we started the project, and we wanted to make this as a new standard, industry-wide standard. So our approach was totally different than our competitors. We joined our forces with Continental, and that's how they actually the name of the product came out. The cocoon is coming from the first two letters of Continental and the first two letters of Kordsa. And our approach is let's make this technology available for everyone so that everyone can get the benefit out of it and it becomes a new industry-wide standard. And we wanted to have a free licensing pool. We put all the technology patents in there, not only the technology patents, but we also provide the technological guidelines so that whoever joins the pool can follow the guidelines, because the information in the patents is very wide. You cannot just read the patent and reproduce whatever you read. So you need the guidelines. We describe every single detail in the guideline, and whoever joins it follows and gets the technology. And with this concept, we started the pool not so long ago, recently, and we got very good positive feedback. And before the starting the pool, we actually shared samples to interested parties. Many tire producers and textile converters were interested, so we shared the samples. And we got positive feedback, and we started having companies joining the pool. So the response was better than what we expected. And so far we are doing well.
So I would like to turn to Burak about this, because I would like to define the sector need about this kind of cocoon projects. So formaldehyde, resorcinol free elements in this formulation of dipping solutions. And Burak, could you please tell us more about the industry's needs, this concerning environment needs?
As I mentioned beginning of my speech, we were totally focused for the environmental issues and leading by the carbon dioxide emissions. So apart from that, the industry is looking for the more and more sustainable solutions, and it
Yes,
can
sustainability is the keyword, right?
exactly it is. And Ayşe, when we think about the pandemic impact to the whole economy, and definitely it may result with some financial issues, but at the end of the day, for the future of this whole world's economy, we definitely need more sustainable solutions. And the automotive industry is the one industry knows the impact of its attributes to the climate change, and therefore has a sensitivity for finding more sustainable solutions. So therefore, we can refer that in our industry, especially for tire industry, the whatever it is, it might be related with the adhesion technology, it might be related with the reinforcement technology. It should be more and more sustainable. And as Yasin mentioned, not only for the performance, but of course we are trying to reduce the amount of the material which has been consumed by tire, and we would like to reduce it. How? Actually, we are developing high performing materials, high performing tire reinforced material. So therefore, at the end of the day, tire makers are using less and less tire reinforcement material. So this is how we respond to the sustainability demand of the
Yes,
industry.
yes, I see the point here. So could you please tell us, both of you, about the Korsa's capacity to develop kind of materials, technologies, and the services to give its customers?
When we look for the last decade, actually, we understood that the best approach is cooperating with the customer, with the industry, and the open collaboration activities is the major point that we take the lead. And at the very beginning, it seems to be that a product solution is the ultimate solution that what industry requires. But now we understood that the problem itself is very complicated nowadays. So therefore, it's not easy for one party to solve this equation. Therefore, we are aiming to create this kind of ecosystems. So the ecosystems is really important to solve the general problem with the contribution of all parties. So therefore, as Yasin mentioned, the Cocoon license platform is a quite good example of that.
So you say that we have to collaborate with whole industry.
Yeah. For example, open innovation is the key word. I think we have expertise in tire cord reinforcement, but we need to collaborate very closely with the tire manufacturers because we don't know the actual performance of our material in tire. So thanks to Cocoon, for example, Cocoon project, we were able to work very closely with Continental. And this way, the project goes not only very fast, but we save time and money this way. For example, in the R&D center, we have several projects. We want to work with some certain chemicals, but we don't have the expertise in those chemicals. So we collaborate very closely with the universities or some other institutions or even with some other companies so that they can produce the chemicals that we need or any materials that we need, and we can incorporate those chemicals in our formulation. That's why we call it open innovation. This way we can get things done much faster and with much reduced cost.
So with this understanding, we are together with industry, academy, university, researchers, and we have chance to develop new technologies with different parties of this industry.
Exactly. I mean, we even have like Horizon projects being supported by European Union, and many companies are joining these projects in general. And we work on some part of it, and other companies work on the areas that they have their expertise on, and that's how we get things done much faster.
Yes. So, Burak, would you like to add anything else to this conversation? Because we are now ending this episode.
Sure, Aisha. Actually, we are now concentrated on the collaboration and the open collaboration, open innovation activities, and we feel that the Corsa has a sort of power on that from many years. And when we link it to the case mobility, actually, it's a quite important fact that the case mobility is a kind of very emerging technology, the set of technologies, as we mentioned, the connectivity, autonomous cars, shared mobility, and also the electric cars. So therefore, each and every item here requires a kind of common solution from the many different industry partners. So we believe that to achieve the solution for problems of these trends, definitely the open collaboration is a must need. So therefore, here we can state that we are following the trends, we know the how to solve those problems, and we believe that having the power of the open collaboration activities, we have a good attitude to solve that. So I'm really happy to follow these trends and take the challenge and hopefully find a good solutions for these new emerging technologies.
Thank you, Burak. Thank you, Yasin. It's an amazing talk about future of mobility. We are at the end of our first episode. See you in next episodes of Reinforcing Sounds.
Reinforcing Sounds by Kordsa.